Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today in this video, I want to talk about how it is that I rate the books I read. I'm hoping that this video will give you a better understanding of my rating system and what exactly I mean when I say that a book is 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, or 5 star. There are several different factors that come into play when I'm deciding what star rating I want to give a book that I read, and these factors can also vary depending on the genre of the book, if it's a mystery and a thriller, or if it's a fantasy, or if it's literary fiction, etc., and also what audience is the book targeted at. I have different standards for young adult fiction compared to adult fiction, compared to classics, compared to literary fiction, because they have different intended audiences and therefore they're going to be written differently. First of all, I think a pretty obvious component is the writing. How do I think the writing style is? Do I think that the book is accessible? Do I think that the author is properly conveying what they want to convey? Now, I definitely have different standards depending on if the book I'm reading is a young adult or an adult, because with young adult, I generally can excuse a little more cheesiness or cliches because it is for a younger audience, which I may not be willing to excuse in a book that is targeted at adults. So really, I think writing is very subjective because it depends on the type of book and also your own personal preference. For example, I really love books that have multiple point of views and multiple narrators, but some people don't like that as much. I also may like the multiple narration style in some books, and other books I may feel like the multiple narrators were just totally not necessary for that book when it could have as easily been conveyed in one narrator and perhaps even been more cohesive with one narrator. I think one of the most important things in determining my rating for a book is the characters and the relationships, because I am the type of person who has to be emotionally invested in something, whether that be the book I'm reading or a show I'm watching or things like that. If I don't care about the characters and what happens to them, then the book really doesn't have any emotional stakes for me. That is not to say that you can't have unlikable main characters, because I think those can also be really interesting, and I definitely want the characters in a book to have flaws. It is, in my opinion, really boring to read about a Mary Sue protagonist with a bland personality because they just don't come across as realistic. However, if you want to write a unlikable protagonist, you have to make it clear that this person is supposed to be unlikable. You can't have a main character who is rude to other people or treats their loved ones horribly and have them come across as a good guy when they're really not. For example, if a book has a protagonist who is outwardly racist, sexist, or homophobic, and that is not something that is condemned within the narrative, that is definitely going to make me dislike that book. Character motivations also have a huge role in how I'm going to enjoy a book, because even if I don't like the characters or I don't agree with their actions, I want to understand why they do what they do. Characters need to have a clear progression in their arc in order for it to make sense and be satisfying. Every single thing a character does in a book should make sense, because things don't just happen for no reason. Every character should have a motivation that they're working towards and that guides all of their actions. And if their motivations change in the course of the book, I need to understand why. Because if characters are doing things for plot conveniences and not because the character wants something which causes them to take this course of action, then it comes across as very manufactured and it ruins the book. Now moving on to relationships in books, and I don't just mean romantic relationships here, I also mean friendships and family relationships, though romance in books is also a huge part of it because most books have some type of romance, even if that isn't the main focus of the book. I think the reason why a lot of young adult books are not rated 5 stars by me is because a lot of times I don't buy into the romantic relationship. Insta-love is something that really turns me off from a book because it's not realistic for characters to fall in love at first sight all of the time, or to say I love you 2 days after knowing each other. I think it's fine if characters meet and are instantly intrigued by each other or physically attracted to each other, but their romantic relationship should have a realistic timeline. If you are saying I love you to someone you just met, that is going to make me roll my eyes because clearly the characters aren't in love with someone they just met. Love only comes when you get to know someone someone on a deeper level. Because if you say, I love you too quickly, you don't really know that person. It's just lust. It's not love. I also hate it when young adult books or romance novels have a bad boy character who is very obsessed with the female character and is borderline abusive to her. If your male character, or even a female character, though most often it is a bad boy character, is controlling over the female and possessive, telling her who she can talk to and who she can't, what she can wear, what she can't wear, and just trying to control her life, that is going to make me dislike a book. It just is, because that is not what a positive romantic relationship should be. I hate it when abuse is glorified in books, because there are impressionable people who are going to read this and who are going to think that's the kind of relationship they should strive for, and that is not at all what a healthy romantic relationship should be like. I like romances and books that have a realistic build-up, where the characters can connect on a deeper level and where they respect each other. They can fight sometimes and they can make mistakes, but ultimately I want relationships that are built on mutual respect and trust. I also really love a good friendship that turns into love, or a slow burn, or even an enemies to lovers if that's done properly. But if abuse is glorified in your romantic relationship, then I'm going to hate that book. Other relationships in books that will probably make me rate it lower is when the main character treats their friends or family members very poorly. If I see a character who just is mean to their parents or their friends for no reason, and that's not something that's addressed within the book, I'm not going to like it, because that's going to affect the way I view the main character. I do like it when we have complex family relationships in books, but I want to see families that do genuinely love each other and friends that genuinely love each other at the end of the day. If you want to do a dysfunctional family storyline, that's one thing, but if you want to have a positive family relationship, I want to see them appreciate each other. Another type of relationship that I absolutely hate is the girl on girl hate, where two female characters hate each other for really no good reason, whether that be one female character is threatened by another's looks, or one of them steals the other character's boyfriend or something like that. That just makes me roll my eyes, because it is a really tired trope, and I would much rather see positive relationships between women where they lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Too often our society tries to pit women against each other, so I would much rather see positive female friendships in literature. And if an author has a great friendship between two female characters where they are never rivals and they support each other in their goals, that is something that is going to make me appreciate a book more. Then there are other factors that I consider for specific genres. If I am reading a mystery, then I want the ending to be something that is going to hopefully surprise me. Now, there are surprise endings that are surprising because they're bad endings and they were not foreshadowed and they just don't make sense. Those are bad surprise endings. The good kind of surprise endings are ones that you didn't see coming, but in retrospect, you see the evidence that you missed the first time, that were subtly foreshadowed and you didn't pick up on the hints. Those are the most satisfying mystery endings in my book. So if a book can genuinely surprise me while also making sense, that means I'm really going to like it. Now, if an ending is a little bit predictable, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to hate the book, because to some extent, there should be enough evidence that your reader could figure it out. But you also don't want to be obvious, and you have to walk that line very carefully with a mystery. I'm also relatively new to reading fantasy, but when I am reading fantasy, I definitely want to consider the world building, because in fantasies, they take place in worlds different than our own, or magical versions of our own real world, and you want to understand this world, how it works, how the magic works, and things like that. This really needs to be properly developed so you can get the full picture of the setting in your head. I want to know, if this is a dystopian future, how did this dystopian future came to be? If this is a high fantasy that takes place in another world with magic and magical creatures, I want to know, what does this world look like? what are the different places? What's the people like? What's the culture? How does the magic work? Magic systems need to have clearly defined rules and limitations, because if magic just is introduced when the plot deems it necessary, that comes across as awfully convenient. You need to set up the magic system ahead of time, so then when the plot requires it, it's already in the reader's head. And finally, and possibly most important of all when it comes to my ratings of books, is my own personal enjoyment. Obviously, this is totally subjective, but I read books to have a good time and to enjoy myself. So if a book is flawlessly written, but I find the plot boring or uninteresting, then I'm not gonna rate it super high. And likewise, if there is a book that does have serious flaws, but I thought it was really fun and I really enjoyed myself while reading it, I was really immersed, then I might give it a higher rating. For example, if I'm reading a young adult book where maybe the writing is a bit cliched and not as sophisticated as an adult book or a classic might be, but the plot is really fun, the characters are well-rounded, the romance doesn't totally suck, and the book can just successfully get my mind off the real world for the few hours that I'm reading it, then I'm probably gonna give that a higher rating, even if the writing is a little cliche. So now let's get into the star ratings and what exactly I mean when I give a book a certain star rating. First of all, 1-star books. These I rarely give out, because to me, a 1-star book is a book that I hated, and I usually don't hate things. I might dislike a book, but I really only give books 1 star if I think the writing is terrible, if the book is offensive in some way, or if I think it is problematic. I hate the word problematic because obviously everything has problems, but if I think a book is racist or misogynistic or homophobic or something like that, then I will probably give it 1 star. No, I'll definitely give it 1 star if it is any of those things. Because to me, a 1-star book is a book that I hate, that I would not recommend to anyone, and that I think has very few, if any, positives to it. So if I'm giving a book a flat out 1 star, I hated it, and most books I don't hate. I always feel kind of bad when I'm giving a book 1 star because I know that author really worked hard on it and I don't want to tell them that their book sucks. So usually I give a book 2 stars even if I don't like it, if I can find any sort of merits to it whatsoever. To me, 2-star books are books that I personally didn't like, but I can see why other people might like it, and there are some positives. Now, the negatives would outweigh the positives, but perhaps with a 2-star as opposed to a 1-star, there was nothing outright offensive about it, and I do see some potential in it that I personally think the author didn't fully realize. I would say 3 and 4 stars are my most common ratings. With a 3-star book, that is a book that I have largely neutral feelings about. Maybe it's a book that I think I wasn't exactly the target audience for, or that I had expectations going in that weren't met. Maybe I go into a book thinking it's going to be one thing and it ends up being something totally different. That might be a 3-star for me. If a book is 3 stars, that means I think there were a lot of positives, but also a lot of negatives. It is really a book that I think certain people might like and maybe some people dislike. Books that I think have lots of strengths and flaws, but necessarily weren't everything that I wanted from them when I started reading. I might give a book 3.5 stars if I did like it and I think there were more positives than negatives, but I still didn't have very strong feelings about. A 4-star book to me is a really high rating. If I give a book 4 stars, that means that I did really enjoy it and I think there were a lot of positives to it. It had good writing, good characters, and an overall good plot. Now, if I'm giving a book 4 stars, that does mean that I had some flaws. I found some flaws in it, which is why it's not 5 stars. However, if I'm giving a book 4 stars, I think the positives totally outweigh the negatives. A 4-star book is one that I would definitely recommend to other people, and that really accomplished what I wanted with it. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, and I have overall positive feelings about it. I know some people give out 5-star ratings a lot, and that is totally fine, but to me personally, I'm only going to give a book 5 stars if I think it is going to be one of my new favorite books. Now, obviously, no book is perfect, so if I'm giving a book 5 stars, I probably still have some problems with it, but they are very minor ones. Obviously, no book is perfect, though Pride and Prejudice does come close. Because nothing is perfect in this world. Like I said, I really hate the word problematic because obviously every single thing is problematic. There is no thing in this entire world, not you, not me, not anything, that doesn't have a single flaw with it, because everything has flaws. However, if I'm giving a book 5 stars, that just means that I enjoyed it so much that I would definitely read it again, that I really connected with the characters on a deep level, and I'm now considering it one of my all-time favorite books. I really just give half stars based on how I'm feeling. There's no better way to explain it. It's just when something deserves a half star, I just know, and I just do it. So guys, that is just a general overview on how I rate my books, what I am looking for in books I'm reading, what I like in books, and what I don't. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of my rating system, so the next time I do a wrap up, you will better understand what I mean when I say a book is 4 stars or 3 stars or maybe even 5 stars. Let's hope for not too many 1s and 2s coming up, but I don't give those out that often, so I think we'll be all right. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments, what do you look for in books? What do you like in books, and what are your biggest bookish pet peeves? Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every week. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, and I hope to see you in the next video.